must have a reckoning on the Kamloops case, and the 5th year anniversary is coming up. We must have truth by that 5th anniversary, or we're not going to be able to find the truth on anything, because this is a very cut and dried issue, and the fact we don't have results is an absurd thing that is happening.
So anyways, though,
but in terms of this claim about children being the remains of children being found at Kamloops,
yeah,
do you think that, for example, universities like the University of Fraser Valley should be making that claim when there's no evidence for that being the case?
well, probably not, honestly. I don't know how else to put it.
Should universities be making false claims on their library websites?
Probably not. I don't think that's credible then.
Hi, my name is David Brett. I'm the editor of the New Westminster Times. I'm here with Dr. Francis Widdowson at the University of the Fraser Valley. So, Francis Widdowson, a lot of people know who you are, but for viewers who don't really know about you or your background, can you just give Francis Widdowson 101?
Okay. So I was a professor at Mount Royal University, and I was wrongfully terminated in 2021. My case is being appealed, and I'm hoping to get reinstated in the fall of this year. But in the meantime, I have been continuing my research on the residential schools and the Kamloops case. I did a documentary with Simon Hergot called What Remains on the Kamloops case, the impact of the Kamloops case on Powell River. And I'm currently doing another documentary with Simon on a wider, more in-depth look at the deception that has happened with respect to the Kamloops case.
So I understand your case with the University Royal Roads, or Mount Royal, sorry, is coming up. There was an appeal. What's the story on that?
So February 6th, it's going before the Alberta Labour Relations Board, and that they will decide whether I should be reinstated at Mount Royal University.
So, the University of the Fraser Valley here in Abbotsford, why here?
There's two reasons. The first one, the most important one, is that Sarah Beaulieu, who is the GPR operator for Kamloops, so she is the one who did the GPR survey at Kamloops, and she did a presentation July 15th saying that it wasn't remains, it was anomalies, but she's gone dark over the last few years, and we have a lot of questions about her survey and her interaction with the Kamloops Indian Band. And so to some extent we were coming here to draw attention to that situation, but we also found that the library had incorrect information on its library guides about the residential schools, and I did a video on this, basically, calling them out on false information. And we just had a wonderful discussion with the librarian who has changed the information.
My name is Kenley Neufeld. I'm the acting university librarian at the University of the Fraser Valley. And there was a complaint from this organization about the language on our website around the burial site or apparent burial site in Kamloops. And we went ahead and made some changes to the website in order to better reflect what we believe occurred, and some resources for follow-up by the students if they need to look into this a little bit more. So that's essentially it. It's, we don't say 250 dead children, which is what it said before. So.
Was this change prompted in any way by Ms.
Oh,
Francis
sure,
Widdowson?
sure,
Okay.
yeah. Because I think the original language was written in May 21 or in that time period when there was a lot of, it was very upsetting, and it's still upsetting to learn about this kind of possible burial that's there. And we just hadn't revisited it in a while, so yes, when she brought it up a couple days ago in her video, I brought it to the team, spoke to some other people, and we decided that we should update the language to say something different than what was there. And hopefully it will meet her, idea of what it should say. We also want to honor what we believe in terms of what the research is showing, and that the research is ongoing.
Okay, let's talk about Dr. Sarah Beaulieu for a moment. So she is a PhD and has a background in archaeology, and she does GPR. Mm-hmm. But what is it about that particular study that stands out to you to be suspicious, or something that doesn't hold water, it lacks credibility?
Well, we have been interacting with geoscientists. So in order to do GPR, you need to have a background in geoscience, because it allows you to understand the different densities and the fractions and so on. Sarah Beaulieu has no background in geoscience. And as well, if you listen to her discussions, she's heavily into the cultural sensitivity and weighing her GPR with the knowledge keepers' memories and so on. So she's quite advocacy oriented in how she approaches these things. And she'll say things like, it's not up to GPR to tell us it. We have to listen to the knowledge keepers. But in her presentation on July 15th, she just provided a couple of slides when she had done 215 anomalies. So that's a very small sample, and it's completely inadequate for being able to do some kind of systematic review of what she did at Kamloops.
So it doesn't stand up to a rigorous analysis if there's no data provided, or no comprehensive report, or no scholarly backup for it.
Yep.
And what about the question of excavations? This is a big topic of yours, a point that you've made repeatedly.
Yes.
That GPR should be followed up by ground truthing.
Yes.
Why do you think the ground truthing has not happened?
Well, we're waiting to get the documents. So we have Blacklocks had a Freedom of Information request. There's been all sorts of obstacles put in their way to get these documents, but 576 pages of documents are due to be released in the end of February, which has all the discussions between the government and the band as to what the progress was on the excavations. So that will come out hopefully then, although we're worried about the red actions, what kind of red actions are going to be. But my guess is that the band is becoming more and more worried that if they do the excavations, they're going to find that there are no remains there. And so it's better for them to just pretend that there are bodies buried there than to do the actual work that is going to find the truth on the matter.
So wherever you go, you've been going to college campuses, you're vilified, you're called down, not only by students, but also members of the media, public figures. But it seems, that seems to be water off a duck's back. You're very persistent. What is kind of behind your drive to bring this matter to the public attention?
To find the truth. The truth is incredibly important, and the truth is one of our main tools that we have to fight against the authoritarian tendencies that begin to emerge in societies. And George Orwell was very perceptive on this point in the 30s and the 40s. And if you don't have the truth, all you have is power being asserted over people. And so we really need to fight hard for the truth. The universities are where the truth should be pursued. The universities are failing, massively failing. And to try to work with the universities in any kind of official way is impossible, because they've been completely captured by equity, diversity, and inclusion activists. And so going into actual universities, having discussions, is having a serious impact on the universities. And we're going to find out for sure what's going to happen on January 22nd at the University of British Columbia, because University of British Columbia is a complete disaster, and it is one of the most prestigious universities in Canada, and it has three terrible entities: the Indian Residential School History and Dialogue Center, the First Nations House of Learning, and the Department of Anthropology, which have been spreading misinformation all over that campus, and that needs to change, and we're hopefully going to change that on January 22nd.
Okay, one last question. Where are the archaeologists and geophysicists? This is not a layman's practice. It is an academic pursuit. When you have potential or alleged clandestine graves, and an archaeological process. Why has that not proceeded? There was one in Westminster that we talked about in one of our podcasts. There was a cemetery there believed to be Indigenous graves, and a GPR study was done.
Yep.
And within days,
Yeah.
they excavated and found that the potential burials were spurious. So it's almost 5 years later. Why? Why is it? What do you think's behind the delay? And what, maybe for people who don't understand, this trove of documents. Maybe you could explain a little more about what these documents mean that you expect.
Yes. So Blacklocks has been very good on this. They got it was a 283-page document that alerted us to the fact that $12.1 million had been allocated. Then they were looking into this further, and they found that there were progress activity reports that were supposedly done by the band. And so those activity reports are going to have details of the discussions that took place between the band and the government. So they are the actual information about the why the band is not excavating. That's going to be in there, or something about that's going to be in there. We don't know what it's going to be, but the government presumably was asking how are the excavations going, and the band would say something, and then the government would ask again how are the excavations are going, and how did the government, because that's another big thing which should be mentioned, is this is transparency, the Blacklocks document, but the other big factor is accountability. And we need members of parliament who are in opposition to ask questions about what's happening with those excavations that were funded with public funds. This is misallocation of government resources, and any other file, this would be like a huge scandal that the opposition would be pouncing on. But the opposition, which is the Conservative Party of Canada, is not acting like a proper opposition on this. So question period's coming up next week. I expect, well, I'm going to strongly suggest to my MP and all sorts of others that questions be asked in question period about what happened with the excavations.
Yeah, it stands to reason if something is funded based on a project of some sort, that the funder would get progress reports as to the status and the advancement of the program. So those updates, weekly reports, monthly or annual reports, or whatever they are out there somewhere. And nobody knows at this point what's in those reports. So you correctly say this is a kind of potential bombshell revelation if we ever get that information. So you have a busy week. You're off to UBC on
Thursday,
on Thursday
at 11 o'clock in the morning, and we're going in. There's going to be. I'm going to have the sandwich board going in. Asking what remains for the 215 at Kamloops. Dallas Brody, Jim McMurtry are going, and we're hoping. I extended an invitation to all members of the Legislative Assembly in British Columbia, because I'm not aligned with 1BC. I just applaud anyone who wants to ask the tough questions on the Kamloops case. But we must have a reckoning on the Kamloops case, and the 5th year anniversary is coming up. We must have truth by that 5th anniversary, or we're not going to be able to find the truth on anything, because this is a very cut and dried issue, and the fact we don't have results is an absurd thing that is happening.
Okay, thanks Francis Widdowson for talking to us today.
Thank you very much.